What if I told you that Ferrari has redesigned part of the SF25 to adapt it to Lewis Hamilton and that this could completely change the fate of his season? Can a new suspension really make a difference between failure and glory in Spa-Francorchamps? Ferrari's current context in 2025 is much more than a simple disappointment. It is a raw radiography of an organization that bet on a structural change with the arrival of Lewis Hamilton, but still does not find the expected fruits. After a hopeful 2024 in which the team ended second in the Construction Championship, there was a generalized perception that the final jump was close. The signing of Hamilton, 7-time world champion, was interpreted as the last element necessary to build a champion team. But just 3 races later, reality has been another. Constant frustrations, results that do not do justice to expectations, and a car's SF25 that has not responded consistency or the pilots or the coaching staff. What seemed like a golden opportunity for the resurgence of the Scuderia has become one of the toughest tests for its aspirations. Despite Hamilton's unquestionable talent, the car has proven to have a critical operational window. It only performs competitively when very specific conditions of track, temperature, and tuning are met. This implies that, on many career weekends, engineers have to fight against counter-relish to find that exact point where the car behaves properly. It is not just about adjusting the pressure of the tires or modifying wings. It is a constant fight against a balance that escapes as soon as the environment changes minimally. This fragility has prevented Hamilton from translating his experience and ability into concrete results. The contrast with McLaren is particularly painful for Ferrari. The British team has managed to capitalize on its technical advances since the second half of 2024, consolidating itself as the dominant team in this 2025 start. McLaren has not only offered its pilots a competitive car, but also predictable. And that predictability, that ability to know how the car is going to behave under certain conditions, is something that Ferrari has not yet achieved with the SF25. In this environment, Hamilton has had to face a double challenge: adapt to a new team and, at the same time, evolve its driving style to compensate for the technical deficiencies of the car. In addition, Hamilton's lack of trust in the car has become a vicious circle. Without clear feedback, engineers fail to find the ideal configuration. Without ideal configuration, the pilot cannot extract maximum performance. And without performance, the development of the car is stagnant. This explains why the distance of 238 points that separates them from McLaren in the championship is not only a number, but a symptom of a project that still fails to synchronize its elements. Each Grand Prix that passes without significant advances is a blow to the morale of the team, to the credibility of the project, and, above all, to the dream of seeing Hamilton triumph with Ferrari. The situation in Maranello is critical, not due to lack of talent, but because SF25, as has been conceived so far, has not lived up to the surrounding ambitions. And that is why the update that is prepared for SPA is not simply a technical evolution, but a desperate but calculated attempt to change the fate of the whole season. The technical redesign of the SF25 has become a matter of survival for Ferrari. In Maranello, they understood that continuing to refine minor details about an unstable platform was not enough. We had to intervene at the root, and the first step was to attack one of the most determining aspects of the dynamic behavior of a modern car: the rear suspension. This is not only one more piece of the puzzle, but a vital component to define the stability, traction, and predictability of the car, especially in high-load conditions and braking transition phases, passage by curve, and acceleration. In particular, Ferrari has focused on reducing an adverse effect that has severely affected the performance of the SF25: the squat, that sinking of the rear under acceleration that alters the aerodynamic platform and destabilizes the general balance. This condition compromises not only traction but also the aerodynamic efficiency of the flat background, which depends on a consistent march height to generate load without generating excessive resistance. In the case of SF25, this rear axle instability was especially harmful to Lewis Hamilton, whose driving style requires a clear and progressive response of the rear train, especially at the exit of curve, where he builds much of his competitive advantage. The rear suspension redesign included changes in the anchors of the arms, in the geometry of the pushrod system, and in the design of the carbon roofs that protect the components. All this with a double purpose. First, improve the mechanical response of the system against dynamic loads. Second, align that response with the aerodynamic platform of the car, causing the air flow under the car to be more stable in different stages of the return. The goal was not only to gain pure speed, but to return to the car a quality that seemed lost from the tests: consistency. To validate these modifications, Ferrari chose a controlled but realistic environment: Mugello. In a filming day session limited to 200 kilometers per regulation, the team led to the updated SF25 to collect essential data under real load. Mugello was not randomly chosen. Its layout requires stability at high speed, precision in rapid curves, and good control of the height and lifting changes. If the car responded well here, there were reasons to believe that Spa-Francorchamps, a circuit with similar characteristics, could become the true turning point for the project. But the evidence was not completely conclusive. Although the engineers did not find direct failures, they also did not obtain a total correlation between what the simulators and the wind tunnel promised and what the car delivered on the track. This does not mean that the update has failed. Rather, it highlights the difficulties of working with a platform that still does not clearly reveal how it behaves under different conditions. Reading is complex but not negative. The technical team led by Loic Serra has interpreted these results as a first step. What is sought now is to refine the package even more, crossing data with other development tools such as driving simulator and dynamic test banks. The hope in Maranello is that this evolution of the suspension not only benefits Hamilton, but also helps stabilize the general performance of the SF25 in all types of circuits. Because although Lewis has been the change catalyst, Ferrari needs a solid base for the two cars if he wants to have a second half of the competitive season. The technical redesign is not the final solution, but it is the first bold movement of a team that has decided, this time, risk before it is too late. The unknown now is whether that risk will bear fruit in time. What has become clear in the first 2025 races is that Hamilton still has the speed, technique, and adaptation capacity. In classification, he has been able to match and even overcome Charles Leclerc in certain sections. He has adjusted his style, modifying the transition between acceleration and braking, and working with his team to find that sweet point in the aerodynamic balance. This is no small thing, especially coming from someone who for years felt in absolute tune with Mercedes cars. However, this personal evolution has been limited by a car that, until now, has not given the necessary tools to deploy all its repertoire. The new suspension could be the piece that was missing so that this connection finally occurs. But even with this improvement, the real challenge is to build trust, something that Hamilton needs as a basis for risking the limit at decisive times. A pilot can have talent, but if he does not believe in the car, how he will react in the late braking or in a high-speed curve, there will always be a second doubt fraction. And in Formula One, that doubt is lethal. In addition, the pressure is immense. Not only from within Ferrari, where they know that this project revolves largely around it, but also from abroad, the media, fans, and above all, the rivals. Every time Hamilton drops from the car without a podium, criticisms are amplified. Every time Leclerc exceeds it in a race rhythm, the narrative that the British was late for the team is revived. Therefore, Spa will not be another race. It will be an emotional turning point. If the SF25 responds with the new configuration and Hamilton manages to climb to the podium or at least fight for him legitimately, not only external voices will be silenced, but will consolidate internally a sense of renewed purpose. The experience counts and Hamilton has plenty. But what is needed now is a decisive moment, a result that changes inertia. And that moment will only come if the technique and talent manage to align. The technical redesign has raided the way, but it is still he who must travel it. Each curve in Spa, each braking area, and each gear change will be an opportunity to demonstrate that the merger between man and machine, between pilot and car, can finally be completed. Because if there is someone capable of turning a critical situation into an epic narrative, it is Lewis Hamilton. But he needs more than conviction. He needs SF25 at last to return the trust he has put in him. The 2025 season has placed Ferrari at an existential crossroads and Hamilton in one of the most challenging chapters of his career. The rear suspension update represents much more than a technical improvement. It is an emergency symbol, the will to change, and the internal recognition that the path drawn so far has not been enough. In this context, the next Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps is not simply another calendar race. It is a statement. It is the time when Ferrari must demonstrate that he is not condemned to repeat the mistakes of the past, and that he is willing to adapt, reinvent, and fight for a superior purpose. But this story is not only engineering or strategy. It is also deeply human. It is the story of a pilot who has won everything, who has nothing to demonstrate, and that nevertheless decided to start over. A man who left a comfort zone to embrace an almost romantic challenge, to return the glory to the most legendary team of Formula One. Lewis Hamilton did not reach Ferrari to complete his career, but to redefine her. And it is precisely why this evolution of SF25, this risky technical bet, has such a deep emotional weight. It represents the possibility that the project still has life. That the dream is still intact. Do you think this update can really change Ferrari's fate? Do you see in Hamilton someone capable of leading this rebirth, or do you think that time and circumstances play against them? Leave it in the comments.